High Level is a full CRM and marketing platform, and I've used some of the best in the SaaS industry. And we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram. It's Revening's WinsDay. Welcome to WinsDay, Revenue Party people. We've got our hot topics and our hot guests, so I'm going to get right into it. But before I do, make sure that you are subscribed to our newsletter, because I already dropped a full summary about today's show and last week's show and the show before that. In our newsletter, as well as a summary of some hot marketing articles out there and how that kind of ties into it's just marketing inspiration for you. But you should be paying attention to, like, what are some new hot campaigns that are getting press out there. And so I'm writing about that once a week in the WinsDay newsletter. So just go to rethink.com. It's actually /newsletter, and you can subscribe to the newsletter. And also, don't forget, you want to get interested in delegating. I talk about this every week, but thanks to Cherry Assistant, I'm able to have this episode. I'm able to run an agency. I'm able to do a lot. But you can scan that QR code if you're here watching live or seeing this on video. Otherwise, if you're on podcast, just head on over to cherryassistant.com and talk to Cherry Assistant about finding a VA who can do the things that you're looking for. So for me, that was producing live streams, helping me create intro videos like you just saw, and making posts across social media channels for myself and others, newsletters, AI content, editing AI to make it look more human, all the things. So that's what I needed. But what you need might be a little bit different, and it probably is. And they help with that too. And they find people all over the world who have the skills that you're looking for and who work within the time zones that you need. So just head on over to Cherry Assistant and think about delegating. And then also High Level. I'm a big High Level fan. I've white labeled High Level here at Reventing. So we've got app.reventing.com. And app.reventing.com is a full service CRM and marketing automation platform. So we've got all the bells and whistles that you'd have on some of those big B2B SaaS tools that companies are spending thousands on, which even I spent thousands on for other businesses back when I was employed as a W-2 in marketing. But yes, you want to use High Level not only because it's $97 a month, but you get 3 accounts when you sign up to agency software. Well, I use it as agency software. So everyone who signs up with Reventing, whether they're a service client or in my coaching program, they get their own CRM and marketing automation platform. So I've white labeled it, and I'm an affiliate. So I want to help you become an affiliate. Like, I don't just want to have you sign up for this free trial link, which, yes, of course I do. Try it out. It's a 30-day extended free trial with my affiliate link. If you're listening on podcast, just go to reventing.com/high level, get 30 days free on High Level. Try it out. I get a 40% cut, even if you're on the $97 plan, but I have some interest in making sure you succeed. So let me know when you sign up for the free trial and we will get connected and, we'll help you succeed there. But definitely try out high level. And without further ado, let us know if you're watching, where are you tuning in from? Are you tuning in from here in the US, elsewhere? Also, if you hear this later on podcasts, let us know on whatever platform you're on. Like, we want to engage with you there too. But until then, I'm so excited to welcome Rich and David to the show. Thank you so much for being here. And really welcome back, David, because you were on in the first year of Whiskey Wednesday back in the day when we were drinking whiskey live at 9 p.m. during the pandemic. Good times. And you sent me this really amazing marketing hat back then. And I love it. When you showed up, I was like, I'm going to pull that marketing hat out because I still have it front and center, like covering all my other important hats because it's just so basic and I love it.
It's good to be reminded, isn't it?
Yeah, like I'm a marketer. I want to put on my marketing hat. People are just like, hello. But anyway, not everyone has met both of you. So as I promised, I'm going to ask you to please share your full life story from birth to what brought you to now and like what you do in your professional life as well. That gives you credibility going into these hot topics that we're talking about in 2 minutes. And David, since you've been here before, let's start with you.
Okay, 2 minutes. Hello, my name is David. I live in Boston. I was born in London. As a teenager, my parents moved to France. My parents are American, but I'd never been here. So coming to college was the thing to do. And I came to Boston and kind of settled down here. I thought I was going to be a rock star. And in my mind, of course, I am a legend. But alongside my rock star career, I also worked in startups. And I've been doing B2B technology marketing for, let's say, 30 years. Though it might be more than that, but we won't say. And I have been a solopreneur essentially since COVID began. I found myself between full-time roles and kind of just had a client and rolled with it. And right now I'm focused on helping my clients with AI enablement and website and buyer enablement. I'm trying to crack the code on how modern demand gen is done. My focus has been in demand gen pretty much all my career. And starting about 2015, things that used to work started slowly working. And when COVID came along, it really just accelerated the trends. And what I believe, and I wrote about yesterday on LinkedIn, for example, is that the future of demand gen, the new game, is around buyer enablement and AI enablement. And we're going to talk about those two things later. So if anyone would like to engage with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, my first name, last name. I think I'm the only David Kirkdorffer on the planet, for better or worse. And we'll be happy to engage with you folks if you've got questions on those two topics.
Thank you so much, David. So glad to have you back. And you did it in under time. So look at you, Marketing Hat GPT. Woo! All right. Well, thank you for being back, David. And welcome to your first episode, Rich Bishop. I couldn't be more excited to have you here and looking forward to hearing your expertise. But before we get into those topics, could you do the same and tell your full life story, the stuff we can't find about you on LinkedIn that ties it all together from birth to what brought you to now?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I wasn't born in London, but I was born near Boston, if that helps. I grew up in New England, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. Really had a great childhood there, but always really wanted more, right? Wanted to get out and see the world. And for me, I was the first one from my family to actually go off to college and have that opportunity. And at the time, I've realized now I didn't really appreciate the university structure in and around the Boston, New England area. So I wanted to get out. I was done with the snow. I was done with all of that. I wanted warmer weather. So I packed everything up, moved south to Florida, to Lakeland, Florida, went to college there, met my wife, absolutely fell in love with the area as well as with her, decided to stay in the Tampa Bay area. And I've now been here since. Absolutely love Tampa. When I was in school, I studied finance. thought that really being a CFO was where I wanted to be. And had some really good opportunities to work for some very large multinational companies early in my career. Got to take part in a couple of mergers and acquisitions and really enjoyed that, diving into the financial side of things. But I've always had a passion for leadership development and personal development. So when I wasn't working, I was diving into books by John Maxwell and others, and got to the point where I tried my hand at being a leadership coach and speaker, decided with 2 young children at home that it wasn't the time. My career then shifted at that point because of some doors that had opened through some of the speaking to be in sales operations, which has now evolved, of course, into revenue operations. And I've worked with a number of private equity owned companies in that space. And for the last 2 years, I've been advising larger companies as well as working with startups on how to get their go-to-market strategy and tactics structured properly.
I love that. I mean, you did it in under time. So I was like in the chat over on YouTube trying to connect with people. I thought you were going to keep talking, but I always appreciate from a sales perspective, really like people who can wrap it up really concisely. So thank you for that. We did get a couple comments. And if you are here engaging live, we totally welcome that. And we want to make this conversation about you. So let us know what you do. What industry are you in? Where are you tuning in from? What's your full life story? And what questions do you have for our experts that we have on? And we can put them up on the screen as they come up. But just wanted to show real quick. We've got someone who's saying, we've got David here saying, AI will never replace the human to human connection. And Stanley over there on LinkedIn is saying he's glad to connect. So everyone go ahead and send Stanley a connection request. But in the meantime, let's get into this first topic. GEO or GEO for B2B. Let's get into that, David. First of all, what is it and how can we boost visibility? In the newsletter, I made the newsletter saying today is about visibility. And, a lot of the articles that I was referring to that I did the news section on also were about visibility, of course, but and AI and building websites with AI and bringing AI into the fold. And those marketing campaigns that are winning are still using AI. One thing irrelevant is to this topic is newsletters. Newsletters right now are having a comeback. That was another thing I mentioned with everything. But let's focus on GEO and what it is and how we can get visibility with it.
Sure. So GEO, right? It's Generative Engine Optimization, or AIO, or AIEO, or LLMO. I hope we figure out.
Okay, can we get through all those acronyms? What the?
I know, right? So this is such a new thing. It's not really new, but people are paying attention to it now. We're looking for a handle to kind of categorize what is this thing, so we can talk about it together and know what we refer to. So for me, I look at the internet as an information service. It always has been. And the consumer of the information on the internet has been people, you and me, right? And that's changing. Now we have AI as a consumer of information. And that's a fundamental difference that we're all trying to figure out what that really means. And of course, it's a moving target as well. So let me try and unpack a bit of what I'm trying to say here. If the internet is an information service, we have used Google as our index to try and find the bits of information. And Google has led among different search technologies. So there's Bing and there's Brave. Used to have Yahoo, but they're no longer here. And anyone who's of a certain age should remember tools that we no longer talk about, like Alta Vista, Dogpile, and all these other kind of originators. And we would use these tools and do a search and get a bunch of links. And then we would look into the links, the ones that had the kind of the terms that revealed themselves through Google. That looks like an interesting one. We go hunting and pecking inside of the actual link itself for the bits of information that kind of address our situation, our need, our query. And by looking at a couple of different links, we put together the answer that we wanted, or found the information eventually we hoped, or we adjusted our query. We all know that. We've been doing that for 20 plus years, right? Along comes AI. And now AI doesn't surface pages. It surfaces little chunks of information that it will decide to review. It will choose the bits of information that seem to be most relevant to the question that it's trying to answer. So it's curating the information that you will see. You're not seeing the source, you're seeing the curated answer compiled from lots of little information chunks. And the word chunk is important in the world of AI optimization or generative engine optimization. And you get the answer, which is what we were looking for in the first place, except we had to go through this intermediary step where we had to do the work to compile the answer. So not surprisingly, given the speed and the comprehensiveness of how fast answers can come and our ability to continue to iteratively query on that answer set to refine it, a lot of B2B marketing, or excuse me, a lot of B2B people, white collar workers, folks who sit at their desks, have moved very quickly to abandoning Google and doing search in ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, or if you're in a particular business, you might be using Llama or Grok or various other solutions. In Europe, you might be using LeChat from Mistral, because those are so much faster and so much more effective. And what that has done is it has disintermediated our websites that Google used to lead us to, give us a link, go find it yourself, from the answer. So we get answers, but we're not actually seeing the source unless we ask for that source. And so the challenge that we have as marketers is, how do we become part of the answer when we're not being necessarily pointed to? And so anyway, I'm talking a lot now. I should probably just break and let people ask some questions. But that's the new challenge. That's the new battleground. That is the new place where we need to be seen. It's a discoverability problem. It's a visibility problem because no one's coming to our websites. And indeed, I'll tell you kind of a teaser for the next question I might be focused on, buyer enablement. People aren't even going to the website when we know what the website is, i.e., I'm looking for some information. I can't find it. I'm sure it has it somewhere. So I'll just copy a bunch of URLs, dump them into ChatGPT and say, hey, look, could you go take a look? Because I can't find it. Are you finding this information? Can you answer these questions looking at these URLs? And if you think I'm strange and weird, I am maybe at the front edge of the strange and weird, but a lot of people I talk to are doing the exact same thing, because it's such a treasure hunt to try and find the answer to the information on individual websites because they're all designed so differently. So those are the two things. They come together for me, and this is the new game of demand gen, is making sure that the information that we would wish our customers to have, because they have these questions, is being seen and acknowledged and part of the LLM answer. And that then when people do come to our websites, that they can actually find and have a successful experience on the website, measured by, I found what the F I was looking for in the first place, rather than, I spent 5 minutes, I still can't find it.
Yeah, definitely. Great points. So if your company is still focused solely on optimizing for search engines, you're optimizing for the wrong audience.
Yes and no. Well, yes and no. So dive in deeper. Traditional SEO is vital for success with generative engine optimization.
Ooh, tell us more. So we should keep optimizing our all image tags?
Yes, very much so.
Okay,
very much so.
Tell me more.
So, okay. There are many different LLMs. We know Anthropic, we know OpenAI, right? And so forth. Okay, they have multiple models each. They all have different training data sets because they all crawled information differently. They all have different cutoff dates for when the training period ends. They all use different real-time, what's called retrieval augmented generation, RAG, wish we had better terms for these things, live search to augment information beyond their training dataset endpoints, or to look for other information that was not necessarily scooped up in their training. They all have different content licensing arrangements with other providers. You may have seen different arrangements. Recently, for example, ChatGPT made deals with Reddit. And so Reddit, knowing that they can make deals with other LLM providers, is now suing Anthropic because Claude was scraping without authorization. So they all have different information brains. They all have different libraries of information, and they all have different ways of finding more information. And when they go finding more information, they're using different search engines. So Google, Gemini, uses Google search, as one might expect. Turns out that Claude is using Brave search. So some people may be familiar with Brave search. It's the only independent indexing search engine out there. And it's pretty good. Le Chat, Mistral, is using Brave as well. Bing is the driver for ChatGPT, for Llama, and for Copilot. So our SEO is leveraged because when the LLMs go off to find real-time information, they are using these search engines and they are finding a bunch of links. And instead of trying to say, well, which is the most popular of these links and take information just from the top ones, the LLMs are going in, augmenting their training data and searching for the chunks of information that most quickly align to the question that was being asked. And quickly is important because there's a certain amount of budget that all of these queries have. They don't go on forever until they find the answer. They say, okay, I'm going to spend a certain amount of energy, I'm going to get enough of an answer, and I'm going to bring it back. And so our SEO, our ability to be surfaced when the real-time query goes out to find information to augment the training data set is really vital. And of course, the longer the age of the training data cutoff kind of moves back, the more it's important for our information to be found real time. So getting high ranking is still a thing we need to do. We're not going to be part of the answer if we're at the bottom of the list, put it that way. So SEO is still very important. And all the things that we did for SEO are still important. And they're important in different ways also for the LLM because they're interpreting the data, and we can kind of get into that. But to your point specifically about adding alt tags to images and to diagrams and things like this, the quality of the alt tag becomes interesting and perhaps an opportunity to add more context, because what's going on is that the LLMs are working with a greater capacity to understand context than the regular search engines ever did. So I'll stop there. I just dumped a bunch of information. Hopefully that was helpful.
As always, just like, teaching us marketers what we need to know and keeping us up to date. I really appreciate all of your feedback there. And I totally agree. I mean, it shouldn't be about just abandoning all the SEO things we used to do. I mean, I just have nightmares of being a marketing manager in-house with 300 pages of things that needed updated on a website, like all image tags and broken links and, all the things. It still needs to happen, it sounds like, but we need to be thinking about AI as we do it. Would you say I summarized that okay?
Yes. So success in SEO is really important. However, it is not the only department that has an influence through what they do on success with generative engine optimization. So what is that? Where am I coming from? LLMs grab information from everywhere.
That's true.
There's information on your website, and then there's information across the rest of the website. And the balance of what the equation is as to this particular answer for this particular market, in this particular ecosystem, at this particular time, as to whether the information will mostly come from your website, perhaps if it's a very specific type of a query that your website might be answering, versus third party, it's completely different every time. So LLMs don't care about our departmental organization structure. They don't care about our org charts. They just grab information. So who in our marketing team, for example, puts out information? Well, a lot of us do. There's the content team putting out information. There's the demand gen team putting out information. There's the partner team putting out information, right? There's the brand team telling us what information to put out, and if we're listening to them, and of course we are, they have an influence. There's the product team. There's the website team, of course, how our website is structured. There's the design team of how things look and so forth. All of these groups, right? All of these groups are part of the equation. So this isn't something you can say, Go fix the geo problem, Mr.
Oh
SEO.
man,
Right?
I hate to interrupt you, but that's just like the perfect segue into the next topic, which is
Okay.
across teams. And so, Rich, I see you nodding there.
Yeah.
It does sort of get into department alignment and smoother customer experience across teams. And as a CMO, I'm still currently fractional CMO at BDEX, where we have deconstructing data and we're talking to all these data people. It's the same thing. It always comes down to culture and teams and communication, even when we're at the most technical things. So kick us off.
Yeah, I think you're getting into the heart of really the importance from a marketer's perspective is the brand identity, right? And making sure that people across the different teams are all speaking the same language, they're all using the same imagery, they're all talking the same way, right? No matter who you are, because as David was pointing out, information gets out there from everybody in the organization. And as these LLMs are getting larger and more and more a part of our daily lives, the way that the company is talked about is so important. So I do think that in the long run, brand identity is going to become even more of an important factor here in how a brand is seen outside. And as we talk about now, start to transition a little bit from marketing into sales, is how effective is that sales process and how effective are the demand gen activities taking place that then pulls a lead into what then should be a sales process from there. And that's where having, again, in the same spirit, the simple touch points across the way, right? Where a lot of companies tend to fall down as they get larger is you start to think in department silos. Marketing does their thing and they're responsible for a certain amount of MQLs. And they kick those MQLs over to sales, and maybe sales likes those MQLs. Unfortunately, there are a lot of sales teams that go, oh, those are crap. I'm not even going to deal with those. I'm going to focus on these other leads that I'm generating from referrals or whatever, instead of looking at it as a holistic system. You then take that process and go, okay, if I'm a SaaS company, for example, you need to implement that solution and you need to get the customer onboarded and making sure that they're then using the system effectively and efficiently as time goes on. So you have all of these handoff points along the way in a customer's journey that a lot of companies miss because they're looking internally. And my marketing leader over here has these things, my sales leader has these things, customer service, all the way down the line. You tend to break up and chunk up the company as you get larger without that customer's viewpoint of what that experience is like. And I like to equate it to a train ride across the country, that, the ideal is that you're on one train and it's direct all the way without any stops and you're going right to your destination, right? That's ideally what we're looking for. But in reality, what we end up doing is we've got a marketing train that gets to a station. The customer has to get off and find their next train, which is sales, then jump on that train to move down track a little bit. And maybe it's a large sales team and you have an SDR in between, right? But now you've got another jumping off point to then get on another train. It can feel really segmented for them. And that in many ways taints the customer experience. So it's important to have those handoff points to be as coordinated and as smooth as possible. And there, of course, is a system aspect to it, but there's also a cultural aspect to this as well, making sure that the teams are aligned on their KPIs so that an MQL is understood and respected by the sales team and so on, right? And then downstream, where sales team isn't just signing a customer and throwing it over the fence and hoping that they stick so that they can hunt for their next sale, that they have a stake in the long-term health of that customer. And it's important for us, I think, to keep those things in mind as we look at the customer journey, especially as more and more of these tools like generative AI, Claude, ChatGPT are going to be some of the entry points for us. As we look at this, we can't lose sight of the fact that we had a comment in here earlier, AI is never going to replace that human connection. We've got to make sure that we've got that human touch that's going to continue to be valued more and more as time goes on. that we can bring that human on the other side of the computer or on the other side of the phone through that buying process so that they are happy with the product and they can become an advocate for the brand down the road.
So important, bringing the human into the mix. So yes, and that's it. People are the complicated part, right? We're complex, whether we're talking internally or externally and trying to get new customers. So, David, what are your thoughts on the whole bringing the human into the mix here? Oh, we got you on mute. Let me unmute you. Go ahead.
Sorry. I don't know. That's where we are today. That's what we're used to. I'll make an analogy. When the Beatles first appeared, many reviews thought they were awful. Many people said they're terrible. They can't play. They sound terrible. They're out of tune. All these things. Of course, we all love the Beatles. When I was a young kid, I was a kind of a mopey, long-haired teenager, like many folks of my generation. And synthesizer music was fake. It wasn't real. It wasn't it wasn't human. Like I was a rock kind of thing. Go to the clubs today, no one's complaining about the synthesizer music that they're listening to at all. In fact, that's what we grew up with. That's what we like. We get used to a thing. So will we need the human touch? Probably, possibly, maybe not. Depends on what for, right? Sometimes you don't even know if an instrument is being played by a human or not. It's not actually part of the equation. We actually just want to like the music. So I'm generalizing a little bit, but the point being is in the future, the norms may be different. Kids today who are being born today are going to be born into a world where there's a different reality than the people who are typing right now, we need the human touch. And this is not to denigrate the people who are saying we need the human touch. We do need the human touch. That's our generation. That's a thing. It's real. I want it too. But that may not be the case in the future, and it'll be a gradual shift. It won't be black and white overnight. And it also has to do with the capacity of whatever is the non-human touch to be successful in delivering whatever it is that we're looking for in the first place. So whether it's a fun musical experience that we can kind of get into the vibe of it, or whether it's an answer to a question that we have about a product, or guidance on how to do a thing because we're stuck, and now there's a live enabler of guidance that's personalized to us. I think it's a moving target. And in our lifetimes, we're going to see it move quickly.
It's going to be, I think, interesting. And that's a very good point. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch over the next 10 to 15 years how that does evolve once we get into some of the newer generations here with this. But at the end of the day, this live event and podcast is successful because there's a human on the other side watching it, right? We're quickly getting to the point where social media is so bot driven that you have bots writing content that bots end up liking and bots end up commenting. And you could get to the point with enough of that in mass that the humans stop paying attention to it, right? So at the end, it's still going to be about who's paying attention and getting the value out of it. And how do you drive that value for the human on the other side, regardless of how many bots are in the middle contributing to the process along the way.
Amen to that. And if I'm going to put on my marketing hat and talk about this show, I mean, that's why live streaming isn't going anywhere. There was an article too, just 2 weeks ago about how brands are succeeding with live streaming right now. I use LinkedIn for B2B purposes, but go check out TikTok. Like I even sell like actual products on TikTok, like clothes, like this outfit I got free on TikTok because I went and made a video on it. And so people then buy it and I get commission. Boom. So this is happening on TikTok at a mass channel. And live streaming is live. It can't be replicated by AI just yet. This type of conversation, yes, there are deep fakes. You can make these like reels, but to have a conversation like we're having right now and engaging with comments in the chat that are relevant to what we're saying right now, it's just not possible. And it's going to be even harder in the future to find ways to connect with people on these social channels in real time with long form content that's quality content. And what I hear is concern all the time is visibility. I need a lot of followers and likes and engagement. No, really you don't. If you know your marketing strategy, your message, I'm going to put you on mute here, David. I'm hearing some clickety clack. Sorry. But yes, I can't remember what I was saying. But when we are trying to connect with people on these social media channels, then it gets harder and harder because we see all these bots and we assume, oh, I need to have 400 likes in order to be relevant. But you got to remember, what's your end goal? Probably revenue. So if you're talking to the right person, if you get 2 likes, but they're the 2 right people, then that is good stuff. You got to go back and remember, like, what is your goal here? Who are you talking to? If you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. What is your marketing strategy? And I'd love to get back to that at some point. But to wrap up this topic in terms of teams and people and complications, Rich, could you summarize it before I put us into our message from Cherry Assistant?
Absolutely. The quick summary is, as we're marketing and as we're growing our companies, don't lose sight of the fact that there is a person making a purchase at the end of the day, and you've got to take their experience along the way into consideration and build your processes and systems to support that, and not just to build up your own departments, but to keep the customer at the center of it. And sure, you can leverage technology. Sure, you can use technology to help, but don't forget that it's a person who's actually making that purchase on the other side.
I love that. It's always human to human at the end of the day. But until we get into our next topic, which is buyer enablement, websites that build trust, getting back into websites a little bit, let's hear a quick message from our partners and sponsors over at Cherry Assistant. I'll be right back after these messages.
This is Mike, also known as Clean with Mike on Twitter. Mike hired a virtual assistant from Cherry Assistant about 2 years ago. Now he has a $50K per month business, fully managed by a remote operator in South Africa. His VA from South Africa does the following: closing inbound leads on the phone, Yelp and Google and Facebook, manages his CRM and Gulf High Level, deals with rescheduling, cancellations, any issues, hires and manages the cleaners, and sends them daily reports and updates. Mike has a fully cash flowing business managed by a remote operator for only $8 an hour. You can also hire a US equivalent worker in the Philippines, South Africa, Latin America for a fraction of the cost with Cherry Assistant. Be like Mike and grow your business with offshore staff.
Yes. And so if you're on podcast right now, what we're seeing on screen is a menu of some of their services. They've got lead generation, CRM management, prospecting assistance, sales presentation preparation, data entry and cleanup, customer support, and project management assistant. Just go over to cherryassistant.com and let them know that you heard about them through WinsDay, and get a VA. It's time. But also, really quick, I wanted to mention High Level. I told both of you earlier I was going to bring this up, but I use High Level. It's a CRM and marketing automation platform. I'm putting the 30-day free trial link on the screen, but if you're listening on podcast, just go to reviting.com/high level. And I find it helpful. So right now with High Level, what we're really focusing on, let me think, is like, when I think of High Level right now, I'm thinking of the leads we're bringing in. The leads. So that's why I love High Level, because as a marketing agency, we want to show that, hey, we're bringing in leads, right? Because everyone wants leads. Of course, you want to prove that you're closing on those leads, because MQLs are a thing of the past. Let's be real there. But I digress. With the CRM, I'm able to show that. And I'm able to show that by booking guests on podcasts and sponsors. We get contacts into the CRM that way. Podcasts are leads into CRM with newsletter subscribers, leads into newsletter with people who show up to your live stream. When you go live on LinkedIn and you have 150 followers on a business page only, when you go live on a company page, you can download your registrant. So everyone who comes to this show on LinkedIn, I can get their email and I can ask if they'll opt into marketing, all just based on seeing this show. So then we get those into High Level, leads into CRM. So High Level is a CRM, but then we use it with like landing pages and marketing automations. Reminds me I need to follow up with this one person who was helping us put together this 6-page marketing funnel. But yeah, I digress. I love High Level. It's only $97 a month. I got the affiliate link up on the screen, reviting.com/high level. I know, Rich, you said you've had some experience like with it. Anything you'd mention on it?
Well, going back to the point of having a smooth experience, one of the great things about high level, especially for solopreneurs and entrepreneurs that are growing their businesses, is that it is all in one spot, right? You've got your marketing, you've got your CRM, you've got your ability to email, to manage ads. All of those pieces are in there in one spot without having to jump around, make sure different systems are talking to each other. So it can be a very, very good solution for somebody that wants to make sure that they're getting the most out of their data.
100%. Thank you for sharing that. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's why I chose it. It was $97 a month, all inclusive, like everything that I had in the other platform I was using that was going to be way more expensive. And it's a big name, but I digress. Let's get into websites, which also tie into your CRM and marketing automation platform. We're always embedding web forms onto websites, or just ideally building websites in high level. You haven't mentioned, David, before we get into buyer enabled websites that build trust, what's your favorite website tool? Oh, we got you on mute here. I'm going to unmute you. Start again if you
What do
don't
you mean?
mind.
What do you mean by website tool?
So I guess a website host, so or like WordPress or high level, or where are you building websites?
I don't. It's a great question. It's a fair question. I don't have a favorite per se. It's not a part of the world that I'm focused on so much. So I'm not going to be a good person to advise others as to what might be a good framework.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've got clients who use all sorts of things too. And it's good to not be married to one. But another one that I like, I'll just mention, is Webflow. That's what we've built reviting.com on, is Webflow. But let's talk about buyer enablement. So, because really the important part about the website is that you have the right message, you have the right content, the GEO, the SEO, like we were talking earlier, but then that you have that sort of message that's so human that it actually builds trust. So how do we do that and enable our buyers?
So I like the term buyer enablement. And before buyer enablement existed, we often talked about sales enablement. And sales enablement was all that good, cool stuff that we provided from the rest of the organization to sales reps they could leverage and use in conversations with customers, which is cool. It helped answer questions that customers had. Situations would come up and you'd have a piece of documentation or an idea or a presentation or a demonstration that you could provide. So this was helping sales reps. And the goal there, the intent, was to help drive the sales process further forward. Of course, there is a fundamental flaw with sales enablement. You have to talk to a sales rep. And a lot of people don't want to do that, especially in their learning about experience. They want to have more free access to information. So since COVID began, I guess I started talking about buyer enablement, which is getting all that good stuff that you gave to the sales reps that was there to serve the purpose of answering questions from buyers and put it on the website. Make it available, make it freely available. Don't gate it there. That doesn't help much. Make it easy to find. That has to do with how you menuize things and provide search to find things. And so that you've got all the answers, hopefully, that you've constructed for sales reps for their sales process now on the website and findable there. One could argue whether that's happened or whether it's happening enough. And what AI has done is, of course, AI is now trying to pick up all that information, as I mentioned about this disintermediation problem. So if it's not on your website, it's not going to be part of the AI's answer set. So another good reason to put it there on your website. So buyer enablement is helping provide information to the buyers, to the people who are curious, so that they can answer their good questions that they have before they have to reveal themselves to you. And by the way, Kerry Cunningham over at Sixth Sense has done the analysis, and he's documented and provided the findings that we can all go and find, where 80% of buyers are revealing themselves to vendors after they've already put together their consideration list. So how did they put together the consideration list without having talked to us at all? Well, because of the information that was available. So we want to make sure that the information that's available helps answer 4 key questions. And this is kind of a framework that I like to share with my customers. First question that a buyer is looking for an answer to when they come to a website is, am I looking at the right category of solution to address our situation? It's about my success after all, right? I'm the buyer. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right category. Just start right there. There are so many tools out there, just in marketing alone. MarTech, there's something like 12,000 solutions, and they all provide more leads at lower cost. So perhaps I need to find the right category. Then within the category, second question becomes, am I looking at the right kind of vendor for the kind of business that I am? Maybe I'm a smaller credit union and I want to find a company that doesn't feel like it's a monster and I'm just going to be a little weed in their world. I want someone who's more at my level, who I can get better customer support from, and so forth. Third question, and this is where most websites will fall and fail, is around the question is that the buyer asks is, would we be successful digesting this solution into our workflow, our tech stack, our systems, with our people, given that this solution implies its own workflow, has its own tech stack, and its own kind of process. So I want to see if I can digest that thing, which is successful for other people, and that's good, but my environment would be successful kind of ingesting this thing in the first place. And then the fourth question that I want to have success, I want to feel confident about my success with is, I'm going to get economic value from this solution, right? And I want to know how I measure that value. I want to know when the value might come. For larger projects that are infrastructure oriented, I might wait longer. My expectation would be there. For other things, I might have a shorter time window for expecting to see benefits, because it's going to cost me money and time and organizational upheaval to put this new solution in, which either A, is replacing something we have now, or B, is kind of like being jammed in between two things to remediate some gap that we seem to have, or do it in a better way. So when it comes to buyer enablement, buyers are looking for answers to those four core questions. And the question becomes, how well are we providing the answers to those questions on our websites? And then are we revealing that information in a way that can be found by AIs? And there's a lot of stuff we didn't talk about. This is just a 1 hour show after all. But that's, to me, is buyer enablement. And key success to AI enablement is having good buyer enablement and a good buyer experience when people do come to your website to find these answers.
Yes, 100% buyer enablement on your website. That is a ton and a mouthful. Rich, what's your reaction to buyer enablement and everything he just said?
I think he's very much aligned with what it was that I was talking about in terms of the journey. I think the big difference and the big add here is when you look at a company like Amazon, for example, they have tried to make everything as simple and easy as possible for you to find and for you to be able to buy. And they have spent billions of dollars on making it easy for somebody to purchase and taking all of the friction out of the purchasing process. I think that is a great model for us to be thinking about. There may be steps that we have to take in order to get there. You can't do that all at once, but absolutely, the more friction you can take out of that buying process, the more that you can help your buyer to become educated and to make an easier decision, the better off you're going to be, because they're going to want to do business for you, because frankly, that's what people are looking for.
100%. I would agree there. And I want to make sure we get into this next topic. So let's transition into GTM transformation, leading change across teams. So again, getting back to people, we need people to build trust. We need people for culture, but we also need it for GTM transformation. Can you kick us off on leading change across teams, Rich? Sure.
A number of topics that we talked about already today are really centered around change, right? AI, generative AI is going to eventually cause us internally as a company to change the way that we go to market, or the way that we post, or the way that we collect leads, right? It's coming. And there are bits and pieces now that we're aware are changing, but 2 years from now, a year from now, it's going to look even more different. And so it really comes down to, with these big changes and big initiatives, how do you make that transformation within the company? The smaller the company, then theoretically, the easier it is. But there are a lot of larger companies that have been established for a long time now that need to take on these new tools and these new philosophies in terms of how they go to market, how they service their customers, or else they're going to get left behind by some of these disruptors and some of the smaller companies today that are growing quickly, because they're the ones that are doing it right. So when we look at really creating transformation, the point is to make sure that we've got an eye on where it is that we're going, but bringing the company with you and bringing all the way down to a staff level, to make sure that their input is included in how this transformation takes place. That's where the ownership really needs to be. There are too many companies, frankly, that take on a transformation project, and from the C-suite, it's directed down of these are the changes that we need to make. And while sometimes that works, unfortunately, there are a lot of those that fail. And change and transformation is something that is going to become more and more of a central part of what a company is dealing with here, especially with all of these technology changes, and how you go about rallying the troops, getting everybody together, making sure the change is able to stick and that it's the right change. Having that kind of structure and that culture is absolutely vital to making sure that your company can stay nimble and make the changes based on the technology and the markets and everything that's happening today.
Can I ask you a selfish question?
Absolutely.
So as I was kind of telling you pre-show, like some of my issues right now are onboarding and fulfillment. And, you know, when you grow like that, you've got to like just digest things fast. And so as a leader in change that way, what would you advise?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, I think it comes down to looking at what the end goal is here, right? In this case, you want to make sure that you've got your customers onboarded, that they can get up and running with the solution quickly, and that they're bought in and happy with what happens. Now, how that takes place is really where the change is for you. Where if you start off as a solopreneur agency and you add some of your assistants from Cherry, for example, you still have to think about the processes and what is that journey going to be like. It's important to step back and think, okay, we want to get these customers through. I know that I've got a big influx of customers coming in. How do we handle it with the people that we have on board? Or are there systems that can help with some of the pieces so that the people that we have involved are really focusing on the critical aspects and with that transition and the onboarding? So there is a transformation there for sure. And it does need to have a strategic point of view of where do you want the customer to end up? What do you want that journey to be like? And how can you best facilitate that with the people, the processes, and the systems that you have?
Oh, so beautifully put and so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that. And since we only have 7 minutes left, and I want to make sure we hear from both of you in terms of who you are, really, what you do, who you serve, and how you serve them. And if they can be served by you, how can they reach out to you? But before that, let's do the guru of the week. And as promised, I'm going to pull myself out of the screen. If both of you could tell all of our listeners why they should go follow these people. I mean, we just spent the last hour getting inspired by you. So these people clearly inspire you. So
can we flip them? There we go. Perfect. I'll go ahead and jump in. Lindsay Dowd is an unbelievable podcaster, speaker. She's been a guest lecturer at Harvard. She just recently won the Business Podcaster of the Year from the Women Podcaster Awards. She was a sales leader at IBM for over 23 years and really built a strong culture that was a winning sales culture. And she takes a lot of those pieces of what it really means to lead with your heart and has some incredible guests on her podcast. So she is a fantastic follow out there on LinkedIn as well as YouTube.
Okay, so I'll just jump in, I suppose. All right, sorry, my apologies. You've been such a great prompter. All right, so Nicole Leffer. Why do I recommend Nicole Leffer? Who is Nicole Leffer? Nicole Leffer is a solopreneur, has a long history in doing B2B technology marketing, so similar to myself. And if you are a marketer wondering, how can I bring AI into my world more? Nicole is a great resource to follow. Sometimes it can seem imposing and overwhelming and challenging. And you ask, where do I start? And Should I know more, and so forth. And so Nicole makes it very easy to understand how you, in your day, in your department, in your team, can use AI as part of your day to improve, if you will, the quality of the work that you do, as well as the quantity. She posts regularly on LinkedIn. She talks about how to create integrations in a way that regular people can understand. You don't feel as if you need to be a systems engineer to do things with AI when you're following Nicole. Her focus is mostly on marketing. So for the folks here who will hear about marketing, she's a great follower. She has courses that she provides that are recorded and or custom to particular departments and audiences. You can kind of have her come and speak at your organization, or just for you, depending on how you'd like to do this, as a kind of a learning environment to help uplift your learning or your team's learning on different ways in which AI can be a positive force to you towards your better quality and better throughput on marketing.
Thank you so much for sharing those two gurus of the week. I did tag them in the comments on LinkedIn. So go find them on LinkedIn and get inspired by some more gurus out there, just like, I don't want to say just like us, but here we are talking like we all know something about something. So I think that defines us as a guru. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, audience. But in the meantime, you all really have shared some really inspiring information. Thank you so much. And before we go, could you please let our listeners know one more time exactly what it is that you do, how you do it, who you serve, and if they could be served by you, how could they reach out to you? We'll start with you, David.
I am a B2B technology solopreneur marketing person that does work mostly with startups and series seed, A, and B. The work I'm focused on is really to drive more business to sales reps. And the way I do that is by helping with messaging, with positioning, translating that into what is on the website, hoping to answer all the key questions that buyers have, and then making sure that information is visible to LLMs, because I offer services around buyer enablement, trying to do audits of your website to say, what information do you have? What information gaps do you have compared to what buyers would want and or your competitors are offering? And then AI enablement. And so I offer training courses on what you need to do, what you need to be considering across the marketing department, not just the SEO, but all the other groups, the web team, the branding team, the content team, the partner team, so that you have a better presence in AI answers, so you become cited. So there's a training class I do website audits of that as well, and I do remediating content creation, the kind of content that's needed. To find me, LinkedIn, David Kirkdorffer on LinkedIn, or if you're quick, you can also send me an email at david.kirkdorffer@gmail.com.
And he is, I never did flip my camera. So this whole episode, it's been, I said I was going to do that and I never did it. Whoops. My marketing hat came from David, and I appreciate there's another episode back from the first year of WinsDay with David on here. So it's been great to have you back on. But before we go, Rich, please let our listeners know you've been so helpful to me already. It's been lovely to have you here. We'd love to have you back in the next year as well to recheck back in with you. But before we do that, let's let listeners know exactly what it is you do, who you serve, and how you serve them. And if that's them and they could be served by you, how could they reach out to you?
As companies grow and they look to grow, to get from one level of revenue to another, it takes a change in the way that a business runs. And so I help companies essentially to do that, to get from 1 million to 5, or 5 to 10, or 10 to 30, and so on. It takes a change in their people, processes, and systems to really kind of become that company that is worthy of that next level. And so over the years, I have a lot of experience with private equity owned companies, larger firms that are, north of $100 million. Some of them even $1 billion companies, where transformation is required, or even for some of the smaller companies, additional bandwidth is required. Maybe you don't have the expertise in-house and you can't afford to bring somebody on full-time. I have a team that will help with the fractional work as well as the strategic work to know, just like we were talking about earlier, where is it that you want to go and what does the company look like at 5 million, 10 million? And now let's connect the dots to get you there from a sales, marketing, and client success perspective. So if people want to get a hold of me, the website is midgameconsulting.com. I'm also on LinkedIn as well at linkedin.com/richbishop2, and that's the number 2. Happy to connect and would love to discuss any needs that you have.
Is amazing. Thank you both so much for coming on the show. That puts us 1 minute past the mark. So I'm going to wrap it up and look forward to hopefully seeing everyone in the audience back for next week. Of course, if you missed this or you just caught a little bit of it on the live stream, just head on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you catch your favorite podcast show, and you can catch the full episode there. And I don't know, probably a couple of days, but we, after every episode, get it posted on podcast pretty quickly. But thanks again to both of you for coming on and hopefully see everyone next week. Bye-bye.